Hi, good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cooley. I'm the Targeted Outreach Director for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as the DFPI. Thank you for joining this webinar. We're going to get started very shortly. I know it's right at 12, so let's give everyone another 2 minutes to jump in. It's a great topic, a lot of great information. We have a great guest here too. So 2 minutes, we'll get started very shortly. Thank you for your patience. All right. Again, my name is Cooley. I apologize. I'm recovering from a cold, so if my voice kind of starts to strain, that's why. I do want to say thank you for taking the afternoon to join our webinar. Today's topic, our financial education webinar series, is on protect yourself from romance scams. I also want to apologize that our special guest speaker from the SEC would not be able to join us. She had another thing that came up very suddenly. So here today we have our enforcement counsel, Trevor Carroll, who's going to help talk about romance scams. A lot of great information. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So a little bit of housekeeping first. Your cameras and microphones have been turned off for this webinar, but if you do have a question, please feel free to put it into the Zoom's Q&A feature. We do have a dedicated time at the very end to answer your questions. So again, submit your questions through the Zoom's Q&A feature. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenter. They do not necessarily reflect those of the department. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not legal or financial advice, and the department does not assume responsibility for the completeness of the information presented in this presentation. So basically, you're getting the most up-to-date information as of right now. When we're recording this, and when we publish to our YouTube channel, the information might change. As you're aware, technology and methodology changes all the time. If you do have, you want more information, you could always visit our website, dfpi.ca.gov, and you can always email my team, outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. Okay. I do want to talk a little about the DFPI for some of you who are joining us for the first time or don't know about who the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation is. We are California's state financial regulator. Our primary focus is consumer financial protection. It is the foundation of our mission and vision, and our role is to champion and uphold financial protections for all Californians. Um, for consumers, please feel free to visit our website. We have a dedicated section for you, a lot of great information like news alerts, our crypto tracker, our crypto scam tracker. Please visit please visit it at dfpi.ca.gov/consumers. A little bit about the industries that we regulate. So we regulate industries like financial institutions, such as banks and credit unions, non-bank lenders, such as payday and mortgage lenders, mortgage originators. We also regulate money transmitters, so things like Western Union, PayPal, issuers of payment instruments. We also regulate securities, financial investment advisors, brokers, dealers, and also student loan servicers, debt collectors, and many other financial products. If you have an issue with your financial institution, professional you're working with, or a product that's out there, please feel free to contact us. We're more than happy to help investigate and review and find out more information about it for you. Okay, romance scams. This is a screenshot directly from the FBI's Internet Crimes Complaint Center, also known as the IC3. It is from their 2023 report, because the 2024 report isn't complete yet. But as you could see, in 2023, confidence and romance scams, the loss amount was over 650 million, and I expect probably more for 2024. So please be aware, a lot of people, it's one of the very top crimes that individuals lose money from, right? You're looking at like the top 5th crime. And by the way, this is just being reported. The FBI estimates that even more money is being lost and just not being reported, mostly because individuals feel a little bit ashamed and sometimes embarrassed that they lost money through a confidence or a romance scam. With that, I do want to share kind of a very relevant, very popular example of a romance scam that's recently happened. This is known as the Brad Pitt scam. You could actually Google it, get more information about it. Here's the cliff notes. A French woman was conned out of a large amount of money by scammers posing as Hollywood actor Brad Pitt. Using AI-generated images, scammers developed a fake romantic relationship and then requested money under the guise of a health crisis. So for some of you who aren't used to looking at a lot of internet images or photoshopped images, it's probably a little bit, it's hard to tell some of these images, but like something right here is a little bit of a goofy image. I was able to very easily tell, but again, scammers are out there and they are trying to target you, especially when you're vulnerable, using many of these different tactics. All right, so just be aware. With that, I'm happy to hand this off and also introduce Trevor Carroll. He is our senior counsel from the DFBI's Enforcement Division, and he's going to talk a little bit about the different types of relationship scams out there. I know we're talking about romance scams, but they're also known as relationship scams. Trevor, thank you for helping us out.
Thank you. So we're talking broadly about relationship scams today, but that's really an umbrella term. So there are lots of different types of relationship scams. So we're going to run through some of those relationship scams so that we're all familiar with the signs of these scams and what to look out for. So the first one is the imposter scam. It's also known as catfishing. A lot of us have seen the show Catfish or heard of the show Catfish, and it's the same concept here. So scammers use a fake online profile to lure you into a relationship. They gain your trust and eventually ask for money or information. Scammers may impersonate military personnel stationed overseas, students studying abroad, working professionals on travel assignment, a foreign national interested in visiting the US. And these scammers often use emotional stories about their service, living situation, or experiences to gain your sympathy before asking for money for things like travel expenses, medical bills, or essential items. Another type of relationship scam, and this is one that we heavily focus on here at the DFPI, is the investment scam. So once a scammer has gained your trust, they introduce you to fake investment opportunities, usually promising high returns with little risk. They may use pressure tactics, fake testimonials, or evidence to convince you to invest in whatever investment they're recommending. There's also blackmail scams. So scammers may try to blackmail you after establishing a relationship. They may threaten to expose the relationship to your significant other, your spouse, or they may threaten to share compromising photos or information unless you pay them. Then there are phishing scams. So scammers may use romance as a cover to obtain sensitive personal information, such as bank account details, passwords, or other financial data. And they may use this information to steal your identity or access your accounts. And with relationship scams, um, any of those can involve a long con. So scammers can be extremely patient with their scams. They're professionals, they know how to do it, and they know how to manipulate people. So one thing that they will focus on is drawing out a scam over a prolonged period of time in order to slowly build your trust. So they slowly build up and foster your trust compared to other romance scams. They might even suggest meeting in person, but then make up excuses so that this never actually happens. And the scammer will at some point steer the conversation toward investment related topics where they will try to get you to invest or send money for a great opportunity. And again, they're patient. This might take weeks or months after you initiate or they initiate communication with you. And then there are platonic scams. So not all relationship scams are romantic. We typically think of these relationship scams as romance scams, but there can be platonic scams. So some scammers will try to become your best friend or your trusted confidant. Scammers often target individuals seeking companionship, support, or shared interests. This could be on social media platforms, online forums, or even gaming sites. So let's talk about how relationship scams work. First, scammers contact you. A lot of times, this takes the form of a text. Um, I think a lot of us have received those wrong number texts that say hi, or are we still meeting up for dinner later? Something like that. That's the initial contact, and it usually comes across as an innocent mistake. Scammers will then pivot to building trust with you. They will try to find common ground with you. They'll try to bond over, where you live or shared interests. But it's all about building trust. And again, that process can be pretty short, or it can be over a long period of time. And finally, when scammers are ready and when they are confident that they've built trust with you, they will make the ask. They will ask you for money or they will ask you for information. And sometimes they may not ask you directly for money. A lot of times, scammers set up fake accounts. They set up fake investment platforms that look real, but are actually controlled by them. So instead of asking you to send money to them, they will ask you to deposit funds into an investment account that you supposedly control. But in reality, the scammers themselves control those accounts because they've created those websites out of thin air. So let's talk about warning signs and red flags. How do we as consumers protect ourselves from these types of scams? First, if the person seems too good to be true, that could be a red flag. I know Ku mentioned the Brad Pitt scam. If you believe that you're talking to Brad Pitt, or if the person seems like they're your soulmate, that may be a red flag. Also, if they profess their love very quickly, if they're speeding up what seems to be some sort of developing relationship, that could be another red flag if they start to move to the I love yous pretty quickly. If their story is inconsistent or changes over time, sometimes it's hard for them, the scammers, to juggle different facts and things that they're telling you. So if they give you conflicting information or inconsistent information, that's a red flag. If they avoid meeting in person or video chatting, or they make excuses for why they can't meet or talk on the phone, that's a red flag. And I will note that nowadays scammers are becoming more sophisticated. So there's even reports and there's real world examples of scammers hiring models, essentially, so that if you do want to video chat with them, they may push back on that for a while, but they may eventually agree to video chat with you. But again, they hire models in some instances. So the person that you're video chatting with may be a paid model. If they ask for money or personal information, especially if you haven't met in person, um, a lot of these things, a lot of these red flags on the surface feel like common sense. But from a victim's perspective, once you're talking to these scammers, they're good at what they do. They know how to manipulate people. So again, if they're asking for money or personal information, whether it's at the beginning of the relationship or weeks or months down the road, that's a red flag. If they pressure you to act quickly or make decisions without thinking, these are some of the pressure tactics and some of the manipulative tactics that scammers employ. So if you're pressured to act quickly or make decisions without thinking, that's a red flag. If they're vague about their personal details or background, that's a red flag as well. Again, they may be juggling um, multiple victims at a time. They may be spending all day texting different victims in different parts of the world. So some of their personal details or backgrounds may come across as inconsistent. And if it does, that's a red flag. And if they ask for payment by gift cards, cryptocurrencies, or wire transfers, these are all methods that allow them to get funds uh, with very little recourse for consumers to get the money back. So, for example, with cryptocurrency, once a victim sends cryptocurrency to the scammer, they can't get those funds back. It's gone. And then if there are faked websites, apps, or screenshots, again, scammers will often create fake websites. They will create fake apps. They will use screenshots of potentially real people or real financial institutions, all to try to trick victims. So if there are any signs that websites might be faked, so for example, if they direct you to a legitimate cryptocurrency exchange, but there are a few extra letters or there's a number in the website address that shouldn't be there, that's a potential red flag. So hopefully we can protect ourselves by using some of these red flags and looking out for some of these warning signs when dealing with scammers. So I'll turn it back over to Q.
Thank you, Trevor. Again, Trevor Carroll, who's a senior counsel at the DFPI's Enforcement Division. So great of you to step in and help us out. He will be available for our Q&A session. Again, a reminder, if you do have any questions you'd like to submit, comments, please feel free to put it into the Zoom's Q&A feature. We will be answering it at the very end, and I do see a lot of questions coming in, so thank you for that. Okay, continuing on. So we've talked a lot about the different types of relationship scams out there and some of the red flags. Let's talk about how you can protect yourself. By the way, you could use these different layers of protection to protect you from many different types of scams and fraud. But we're narrowing this one down for relationship scams. The first layer of protection, right? The way I like to talk to my team, I say you should use different layers of not different. You should use all these different layers to help protect yourself. And the first, probably the most important one, is do not respond to scammers, right? So anyone who is, like Trevor saying, contacting you out of the blue, you might get, and I've received this myself, getting a text message from someone saying, "Hey, are you having dinner tonight?" From a number I had no idea who it is, right? So they want to try to get that conversation started. They're just trying to reach out there in the blue. So again, if you don't know who they are, don't respond. If it's important, someone calling you from an unknown number, if it's important, they'll leave a voicemail for you. All right, the second layer of protection is do your research, right? Look at the different red flags, consider different red flags, like Trevor was saying, verify information, right? If someone's saying they're from a certain country, ask to see their ID or passport, right? Check credentials, go directly to any official source, company, or website. If they say they work for a particular company, go directly to the company and ask them. You can always ask an employee or professional about more information, especially if a lot of the different red flags start coming out, right? Number three, take your time. If someone is trying to rush you, right? If someone is trying to threaten you, they're trying to give you a limited time investment opportunity. If they're telling you not to share this information with others, these are all big red flags. And what scammers love to do, whether it's with relationship scams or other types of scams, they want to get you into tunnel vision. They want to create a sense of urgency so that you ignore the red flags. You start ignoring that better judgment you would have. And so what we like to say is, again, the great strong layer of protection, take your time, right? Again, someone asking you for personal financial information, big red flag. You should ignore that person and don't make any big financial decisions for at least 24 hours. Take time to sit back, meditate, think about it, find out, why is this person asking me for my social security number or my Medicare number or all these other information? It doesn't make any sense after you start thinking about it. And that kind of leads us to things like, obviously, don't share your information, right? So limit what you share on social media. Obviously, what you publish on social media is public for the most part. And scammers can actually look at your profile and your social media profile and start to build some kind of profile to use against you, right? They might see that you like to fish, or they might see that you have certain hobbies that they can try to get into. Maybe you have a certain political affiliation, and so they want to leverage that against you, right? Limit what you share on social media so that it doesn't make you such a big target. And that goes for things like websites and forums, other communities. Emails is a big thing here. If you email a lot of personal information to your friends and family and their email account gets hacked, now all of those emails are out there, and a scammer, an identity thief can look at all this information, again, not only use it against you or as in terms of like identity theft, but they could also try to leverage it, right? Trying to contact you now that they have your email address and they know some personal information about you. That's two steps closer towards you, right? Other things that you want to consider is, limiting information that you share company, right? Just share the bare minimum. Any kind of account profiles, online shopping sites. When these sites become a victim of a data breach, your information, anything you've shared with them is out there. And so those scammers will have that information and they can, again, leverage and use it against you. This is a big one here. Talk to someone you could trust, right? Many people, especially during the pandemic, they felt very alone, right? You're not alone. You have friends and family, even those who might be a little bit distant from you. Reach out, talk to them, right? So important. Friends, talk to friends, family, children. If they're 18 years or older, they might be very aware of a particular type of scam that's out there happening, especially if it's a romance type of scam. Community leaders, financial advisors you might have, right? It really helps you to get a different perspective of someone who's outside your relationship. And when I do my workshops with young adults, many times when they're in a relationship, they're like this. They have that tunnel vision and they can't see all the different red flags. But if you get a friend and family, especially someone you trust, to come in and help talk to you about what your relationship looks like from a different perspective, or what your significant other is asking for, right? It might help open your eyes. So definitely don't sleep on this. Talk to someone you can trust if you can. Finally, stay vigilant, right? This is kind of our broad stroke here, but of course, you always want to regularly check your financial accounts, credit reports, especially if you've shared your financial information to someone that you shouldn't have. You definitely want to check those. You want to inform them if anything's changed. Delete unused accounts and have your data removed from those sites. There's a story I like to share about an individual who had a MySpace account, really old, long time ago, and he didn't change his password or anything. He just forgot about it. But he had his Facebook account, and what happened is there was a data breach. The hackers were able to get his login information from his MySpace account, which had the same password as his Facebook account, and then he lost his Facebook account, or actually they were able to hijack his Facebook account that way. So again, any unused accounts you might have out there, especially if you're not changing your password very often, make sure to delete them, and then of course have your personal data removed from those sites. Use a shredder to dispose of any personal mail or documents, and deposit mail directly to your post office if you can. If you're at an internet cafe or somewhere, don't just close your internet browser, right? Make sure you log out of websites. There was a student I had talked to where she was going to a computer lab and she logged into her Gmail account to retrieve some work documents, school documents. And then at the end of class, she just closed her browser and walked away. And then later on, she found out from a friendly email that someone was able to open up the browser, and her email came right up. And luckily the person was a good person, and they sent an email saying, hey, you forgot to log out of your email. And so it's a really great tip to share. Also, report the incident. I saw a couple of questions in our Q&A. One of the best things you can do, obviously, is to report the incident. Very, very often, these type of scammers are not just targeting one individual. Many times they're targeting many different individuals, and even communities. There was a story that I went to a resource fair, and a woman came up to me and shared her story where she was part of a church group, and someone started trying to reach out to her, right, to create a romantic relationship, and she shared it with one of her church friends, and that church friend had the same thing happening. Come to find out that the church email list had gotten leaked out, and so this scammer was emailing everyone in the church group to try to not just infiltrate, but also try to create victims. So luckily, they were able to find out what was happening. But what you can do is report this kind of incident to your local authorities, right? Local police may be already investigating something very similar that might be happening to your community. You can also report it to your district attorney's office, and of course, state authorities like the DFPI, the DCA, which is the Department of Consumer Affairs, and the AG, which is the Attorney General's office. You can always report it there as well. There are federal authorities such as the FBI. There's the link right there, ic3.gov. That's their Internet Crimes Complaint Center, where you could log in internet crimes. And of course, there's the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, SEC, Security Exchange Commission, and the FTC, which maintains the reportfraud.ftc.gov website, where you can report all sorts of different types of fraud. Okay. And again, so important that you report the incident, whether you just recognize that this is a romance scam, or you or you become a victim of a romance scam, because all the information that you share is going to be added to a case, and they're going to use that information to try to not obviously catch the person, but also stop it from happening to others. Again, big recap here. I know I went through a lot of different slides. So layer one, don't respond to scammers, right? Second layer protection, do your research, and then take your time, right? Don't get rushed. Don't get stuck in that tunnel vision. Layer four, do not share your information, right? Be very cautious of what information you share. And layer 5, ask or talk to someone you trust, and layer 6, stay vigilant, and then of course report the incident. All right. I know we went kind of fast through the slides, but we do have a lot of different questions, and I also have a list of questions that was submitted during the registration period. So let's just jump right into it. First question, and we get this a lot: is this webinar being recorded? Can you get a copy of the slides? The answer is yes. This webinar is being recorded. We will publish it to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/CA DFPI. That's our YouTube channel. And everyone who registered for this webinar will get a follow-up email, which includes a link to this webinar's recording, as well as a copy of the slides. So thank you very much there. Next question, do you regulate gold sellers? Trevor, are you...
So we regulate commodities here in the state of California. So if there is a gold seller case, and particularly any sort of scams related to gold sellers, feel free to report those to the DFPI.
Great, thank you, Trevor. Great question, and also as a reminder, if you do have questions, please feel free to submit it into the Zoom's Q&A feature. We will definitely get to it. Story just surfaced on similar scam using Sandra Bullock as a series of charities sponsored by her collecting money. Yes, this is happening a lot. Sounds like a charity scam, but they're also using someone impersonating a celebrity. If you are concerned about donating to a certain charity, please check out Charity Navigator. It's a great website, nonprofit. You would go there, they have a list of different nonprofits, and it kind of lists, it will not only show if the charity is legitimate, but it also kind of lists more information about that charity. So great comment, thank you, Karen. Next question, how do I verify someone's identity online? Good question. It's a little bit hard. I will say that there's a lot of different background websites out there where you could try to look up someone's background. Of course, many of them was going to ask you to pay for kind of a background check. For the most part, again, I would just recommend, I would definitely take my time and ask a lot of very good questions, right? Also, by the way, you could also do a Google reverse image search. If someone gives you like a profile image, you could definitely just use that image to do a image search and find out if it comes from a source or if it looks like other images. Many times that's a really great way to try to check on someone's profile images and try to verify their identity. Also, by the way, if someone says they work for a particular company, right? You could always ask them to send you like an email from the company's official email address, especially if they're a licensed, like a doctor or a dentist, or they're claiming to be like a doctor, dentist, lawyer. Many of those are licensed professionals, and they should have some kind of way to verify themselves. So great question. Sorry, I couldn't give you a clear answer on that. What are some examples of the excuses scammers use for not being able to meet in person or video chat? And Trevor, I know you talked a little about this.
Sure. So for something like video chat, probably the easiest excuse is that their phone is not working, that they dropped the phone, the camera got damaged, they cannot do any video calls. When it comes to meeting in person, there's plenty of reasons that they can make up, as far as car trouble, or they're in the process of moving, or they moved to a different city that's not close to you. There are plenty of reasons that they can use to avoid meeting up in person or video chatting.
Great, thank you, Trevor. Okay, what is an example of how a romance scammer can contact you? And I know, Trevor, you talked about, and you and I talked about the different wrong number text messages, but any other examples?
Yeah, that's the biggest one, the wrong number text. But you will also find some of the ones that aren't necessarily romance, but more professionally based, is that scammers are using things like LinkedIn. posing as a potential employer. Maybe they reach out to you on LinkedIn and say that they think that you're very talented, that you have a great skill set, and maybe uh, they give the impression that they would like to hire you to a very lucrative career opportunity. So they may reach out to you on LinkedIn, they may reach out to you on other social media platforms, uh, text messages. Those are the big ones nowadays.
Thanks, Trevor. I'll also add, very true. Many times scammers will, again, not just reaching out to you from the blue, like random emails or random text messages, or yes, posting job opportunities or whatnot. They may see your profile on LinkedIn, or maybe see your profile on social media, especially if you share a lot of information. Again, going back to not sharing too much information, so that they could try to leverage your interest, right? Maybe you're all into bowling. You're like a bowling champion. They may, and you're posting that online. They're going to use that against you, right? They might say, "Hey, I'm a bowling champion from 2 towns over, and let's talk about it," right? And that's kind of how they get their foot in the door. So be very careful of that. So great question. Thank you very much. How can I protect myself from deep fake videos or audio used by scammers?
That can be extremely challenging nowadays, especially as AI gets more complex. There's just more tools that scammers have. Um, One of the ways that you can protect yourself, like Ku mentioned, is to slow down, to think about things and then try to verify certain pieces of information. So one popular scam that's making the rounds is the grandparent scam, where scammers will go on social media and find information for a young person. People share a lot of information online nowadays. So they may visit a social media profile for a younger person, get their name, try to figure out where they live, try to figure out who their family members are. And then the scammers take that information and contact that person's grandparents, and they claim to be either the grandson or maybe a medical provider or a police department, and they say that your grandson has been arrested. And that we need $20,000 to bail them out of jail right now, or they're going to spend a lot of time in jail. Or, the grandson has been involved in an accident, and we need money right now in order to give him medical care. And they want you to act right away, to transfer that money as soon as possible. And they use those types of techniques to play on people's emotions. Um, Grandparents want to help their grandchildren, and to get them that help as soon as possible. But what you would do in those situations is to take a beat, to take a moment, to contact, maybe to call, to call your child, to call the mother of the grandkid, or call the grandkid yourself, to see how they're doing, to see if they are in any sort of danger, to verify the information that you're receiving from the scammers. So if they've supposedly been in a car accident or they've been arrested, you can check and verify that information.
Great. Thanks, Trevor. Um, I will add one more thing, and this is something that we always talk about in my Protect Yourself from Fraud and Scams presentation. With your friends and family, those you absolutely trust, you should create like a challenge and a passphrase, right? So especially if they're asking you for financial help or financial information or personal information, you should have a challenge. So say some kind of keyword, and when they hear that keyword, they should give you the correct passphrase, so you can continue that conversation on. It's something I use with my friends and family. So yeah, it definitely happens a lot now that, like Trevor was saying, scammers are using artificial intelligence tools to create deep fake videos or deep fake audios. So great question. Thank you very much. I think this question was kind of asked before, but we can talk a little more about it. How can I check if a photo or profile is fake. Again, with photos, many times you could use Google's reverse image search, and oftentimes, very oftentimes, scammers will just use photos they pull off the internet. Other times, what they'll do is they'll go to social media and just take someone's photos from there. Other things that I've heard of is scammers taking over, hacking into someone's social media profile and using that. And it's definitely a lot harder in those instances um, to detect if those are fake profiles. But you can always do your research, right? For a social media profile, you can always look to see if they're posting often, how far back, how old is that social media account, and then that's really kind of the best way. Um, Other times, what you could do is maybe ask for other friends to friend you, right? Maybe try to um, I don't want to say that's kind of the best way, but it's just different ways you could actually triangulate, right, and try to make sure someone's profile is legitimate. It's really hard though, right? And I would say do your research, be ultra careful when you're creating friendships online, and honestly, meeting up with someone, having lunch with them is probably the best way to create that friendship, right? Start that relationship. Okay. Um, Great question. Thank you very much. What kind of evidence should I collect to report a scam? Trevor, you want to talk about this?
Sure. So I would recommend collecting the scammer's identity. So any sort of photos that they used to communicate with you, any sort of names that they used to communicate with you, those are important. If you transferred money to them, if you transferred funds to them, any of that information is important. So if you made wire transfers, uh, you would want to collect those wire transfer receipts. If you transferred crypto to the scammers, you would want crypto transaction hashes, amounts, dates, and addresses that you sent the crypto to. So those are the most important pieces of information to report a scam.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. And yes, all sorts of evidence. Obviously, any kind of emails, communication exchanges, screenshots are collect all the evidence you can uh, if you suspect that there's a scam going on. And if it's involving an investment, you could definitely send it our way, and we can help look into it. Thank you. Okay, next question: do FDIC protections apply if a victim of a romance scam? I think the insurance amount is up to 100,000. Okay, so this is
Yep.
go ahead, Trump, please.
Sure. So I can answer this. The answer is no. The FDIC deposit insurance covers, I believe it's $250,000 per depositor. And the insurance, and that's for depositors uh, in an FDIC insured bank. And that insurance protects against bank failure. So that's when that insurance kicks in, is in the event of a bank failure. But if a victim is tricked into sending funds to a scammer, that insurance does not protect them.
Great, thanks, Trevor. That's a good question. Great answer. Um, Next question: as a previously scammed victim, we think we're smart enough to know these things before we get involved, and that's true. Um, you don't really know you're being scammed when it's happened, to be honest. Scammers are very tricky. Because we are in a vulnerable situation to start, we can be groomed to the romance side of the scam for months before money is asked by the scammer. By then, it's like being brainwashed. Um, we don't want to be told we're wrong. We're not going to ask anyone's opinion. At that point, it's just not facts, and we need it's not just facts we need about red flags. It's compassion that we're not stupid or gullible, rather that these are professional thieves. And this is a great comment. Thank you for sharing. I completely agree. And you're right. A PowerPoint presentation and bullet points is not gonna it's not gonna stop anyone. And I know enough with niece and nephews who are adolescents and they're in a relationship. Sometimes for someone looking out someone else, to me, I'm like, these are a lot of red flags, right? This relationship does not look good, or what they're doing, I don't think is logical. But when you're in that relationship, as I was saying, many times you put on those blinders, right? You're in love, you're in tunnel vision, and I agree. These individuals need compassion, and you really need to give them time, but also give them caution, right? And tell them about caution. Hey, I love you. I see that these things are happening, and I just want to point them out, right? I agree. And by the way, many romance scams just don't get reported because of that, right? Whether it's with reported to authorities or even reported to family members. Um, Oftentimes, individuals may lose a lot of money and become embarrassed that they lost money, or that they may be part of another failed relationship. And I would say, um, don't feel embarrassed, right? Find the right person to talk to and help you heal from that kind of a thing. Um, because talking about would help. And also, it would create that support that you may need, so that you don't become a victim again. Because statistics actually show individuals who would become a victim of a scam is likely to become a victim of another scam again. And especially if they do not build that support structure they need to help stop it from happening. So thanks again. That's a great comment. Thank you for sharing. Do you know of someone you think is a romance scam? Don't be afraid to report. Okay, this is a great comment. If you know of someone you think is in a romance scam, don't be afraid to report it. Yes, especially if someone you love or friends and family. Um, I don't know if I would go as far as to report, especially unless I knew it's absolutely a romance scam. I would definitely confront with the person first and talk to them and try to get them to see what's happening, because you may actually push them further away if you try to antagonize them, right? So thank you. It's a great comment. Um, if someone is a victim of a romance scam but refuses to admit this is the case, can we report it on their behalf? Trevor, any thoughts on this?
Uh, yes, anyone can report scammers, whether you are the victim yourself or you believe that someone else is a victim. You can always file a report.
Yeah, especially if it's like elder financial abuse. If it's an elderly person that you see that's being taken, you observe that it's some kind of financial abuse happening. You could definitely report it, especially to Adult Protective Services (APS). Um, it's a little harder to submit a case because you probably don't have the evidence. It's just something you are observing. But yeah, as Trevor said, you could definitely report a crime if you believe that's happening. So thank you for the question. It's a great one there. If I reply, I'm reporting you as a scammer, can the scammer gather any access capability from that simple text reply? Um, so I think it's basically saying, can the scammer get access by you replying to them? I do not believe so. I don't believe if you reply back, first of all, you shouldn't reply back to a text that you don't know, anyways, because now the scammer knows you're a legitimate person and they have your phone number, and maybe they're going to take your phone number and contact you again, or they could pass it on to their scam network and other scammers are going to contact you. So I would even reply back, unless, yeah, I wouldn't reply back. But that's me. If you do reply back that I'm reporting you as a scammer, no, they should not be able to just take that and then access your mobile device. Any thoughts on that, Trevor?
I I'm not sure that I fully understand the question.
Yeah, I think he's just saying, hey, if I reply back to a text, can the scammer access your device? And I don't think so. I don't think just using reply is enough. You'd have to click on a link, or yeah, clicking on a link or calling a phone number is usually kind of a way that they could get their hooks into you. Um, but great question. Thanks for asking. This is a long one. Just FYI, not really a question, but transnational fraud criminals are now using couriers to pick up cash or gold bars. I've heard about this too. Victims are instructed to purchase gold at a local seller and provided to couriers working on behalf of the fraud predator. It would be great to have your agency do an outreach to gold sellers in California. Interesting. There have been good guys contacting police when they felt the victim was purchasing gold in their stores that was basically stealing from them. So, interesting question. You know what? That's a great thing. We may actually, that's a great topic. I might actually do another financial education webinar talking about precious metal scams. It is definitely something that is happening. Trevor, do you want to talk quickly just about some precious metal scams?
So the DFPI has been active in precious metal scams. I haven't personally worked on any cases, so I wouldn't be the best person to ask. But as a department, we have been active in that space.
Yeah, and I would definitely caution. There's many different ways that scammers can try to use a precious metal scam. So that's whether they're trying to get you to roll over your 401k or IRAs into some kind of gold investment, or whether exactly what that person was commenting on, trying to get you to take out money to buy gold. Always do your research. Again, thinking about those different layers of protection, right? Do your research, verify credentials, talk to people you trust, right? Talk to a financial advisor and get a second opinion. So great. Do you guys actually go after the scammers when reports are made and make them accountable for reprimand?
We do everything we we have a variety of different laws, and we use everything we can to go after scammers and hold them accountable. Other agencies do as well. It does get complicated and it does get tricky because many of these scammers are operating from outside of the US. They're operating from outside of California. They're operating from outside of the US. But agencies in general, when agencies receive complaints about these types of scams, they use everything in their arsenal to take action against those scammers.
Yeah, and we do partner with other agencies as well. So what I always tell individuals is it's about information, and it's about it's like a puzzle, right? If you were scammed, or even if you observe a scam, the more information you would give us and share with other authorities, the better puzzle that we can build and help stop this from happening. Even if you've lost money, we always do our best to try to recover that money, but also we help stop it from happening to others. Because obviously the scammer is not just targeting you, they're targeting a number of different people. So great. Thank you for the question. Can crypto payments be recouped by victims of a scam? What info would you need to report a crypto scam?
So it is possible if you report to law enforcement as soon as possible. The more time that goes by, the likelihood of recovering crypto decreases. So the faster you report it, the better chances law enforcement has at recovering those funds. And I would be skeptical of any entity that's not law enforcement to recover those funds. And I say that because there are a number of scams and a number of scammers that do essentially double dip scams where they trick you into sending you and into sending the scammers your crypto. And then once you get scammed and you realize you've been scammed, those same scammers contact you claiming to be a crypto recovery service. And they say, if you give us money, we can recover your crypto for you. But really, these are just the same scammers. So there are a number of crypto recovery scams out there. So be very, very careful. And I would first and foremost report to law enforcement as soon as possible.
Yep. And again, they try to use that tunnel vision, that sense of urgency. So I know, like Trevor was saying, time is definitely time is very important, but at the same time, yes, definitely do your research first. Okay. Is there a chance to recover money that is lost in a romance scam? I think we talked a little about this. Again, the longer you wait, the harder it is to recover the money. And of course, be very careful of those recovery companies. Do your research. Don't just go to the first person or the first person that contacts you, right? Talk to your local authorities to get help first. All right. How can I help a friend or family that I think might be in a romance scam? I think we talked a little about this earlier. Again, I would approach them slowly and tell them your observations. Use a lot of empathy, right? The worst thing you could do is go at them hard and then create some kind of resistance, because they might say, "Oh, you don't approve of this relationship," and then suddenly they put up these walls. And so anything that you may say is going to have to filter through those walls, and it's going to be harder. Use a lot of empathy. Ask a lot of great questions. One of the things that I've been taught in part of my mediation schools that I've gone to is just simply ask really basic questions that is kind of common sense, and let them think through those answers, right? So if they're saying, "Hey, this person is asking me to send them some gift cards so that they could buy essentials," I would say, does gift cards make sense, right? Why would someone need Target gift cards, to buy groceries at a certain grocery store, right? That doesn't make sense to me. And so it kind of helps them get those gears moving in their head, get a different perspective, right? But yeah, how to help someone slowly and very gently, because sometimes they could be embarrassed, they could be, in those situations. Okay, sorry, we're rolling on time. I want to try to answer a couple more of these real quick. Here in Orange County, we see scammers contacting older adults via dating apps, Facebook, etc. Yes, that definitely happens. If I would say, if you know of a particular instance, first of all, talk to those older adults. Talk to us. Let us know. I'm happy to come down, do a presentation to those older adults. If they're in a community group of some sort, happy to talk to them, show them the red flags, do this presentation for them. So thank you for sharing. What are inconsistencies that I could look for in an investment proposal or a scammer's story? Trevor, you want
Sure, you can look for inconsistencies, just any inconsistencies. Maybe they originally told you that they are a doctor, and now they are telling you that they're a hedge fund manager. There might be inconsistencies like that. Um, that's an example of an inconsistency.
Yep. And maybe if they're saying this is a great investment, but you're looking at the markets and it's down, so you could actually start looking at, like, how's your investment really high when right now the market's down. So little things like that. You could also check the investments, right? You could also talk to maybe an investment advisor. If they're licensed, you should ask if they're licensed. So that's great. Thank you. Great question here. We see a lot of WhatsApp. We also see WhatsApp contacts and voice over IP. These cannot be traced. That is correct. Very hard to trace WhatsApp, and I know this happens a lot, by the way, on WhatsApp, where you get messages, the communications might start as a text message, and then they want to move to WhatsApp or some kind of voice over IP. And yes, that is exactly right. Well, it's harder for law enforcement to track those type of communications. So that's a big red flag. If someone says, "Hey, let's move this conversation to WhatsApp," that should be a very big red flag. Okay. What do you think of Skype versus FaceTime? So I can't really talk. I don't honestly. I don't use Skype, so I don't know enough. So can't really provide my opinion here.
Same.
Lightning round. We're going to try to answer all these. What can I do if I think I'm being targeted by a romance scammer? Trevor, you want to?
Sure. Some of the same things we talked about. Verify as much information as you can, and you may also want to report it to the authorities.
Yep, very good. Thank you. If you give your IRA and don't pay back, is that money still taxable? This is kind of
It's a great question. Unfortunately, we're not the ones to talk to for the tax implications.
Yeah, you might want to talk to a tax professional for that. So thank you for asking, though. What are the financial institutions responsible for unauthorized transfers or wires?
It's somewhat of a complex subject. If we had more time, I think we could provide a more in-depth uh, uh, answer. But one thing to keep in mind is that there are very little protections if victims voluntarily send the funds. So it's one thing if hackers hack into a financial institution and steal your funds. It's another thing if they convince you to voluntarily hand over your funds. In those cases, there unfortunately are very few protections for victims.
Thank you, Trevor. Will you please comment on how romance scams can lead to crypto scams? And are the use of Bitcoin ATMs prevalent? It's a good question.
Yes. So there are, the scammers often use crypto ATMs as a way of getting victims to send them funds. So victims may take cash out of the bank, and scammers will instruct them to go to a crypto ATM to put that cash into the crypto ATM and convert it to crypto and send it to the scammers. Luckily, here in California, there is a new law that uh, put into effect a $1,000 daily limit on crypto ATMs for users to try to prevent that sort of crypto scam from happening, to prevent victims taking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and stuffing that all into a crypto ATM machine. And in the blink of an eye, it's gone to the scammers.
Thanks, Trevor. I know we're a little about out of time, so there's a lot of other questions here. Some of them are a little bit out of our jurisdiction. Um, I'm gonna probably answer the last one because I think it's more closer to something we could actually answer. Uh, does the DFPI provide any resource links on their website to verify information and or slash entities? How to verify a realtor, how to verify a contractor, how to verify a financial institution or representative. And I would say yes, on our website, you can actually verify anyone who is licensed by us. So things like state chartered banks, credit unions, investment, broker dealer, investment advisors, that kind of thing. A lot of different types of other entities. You can always go to our website, check, not only check, make sure they're verified, but you can also check to see if they have any enforcement actions that are levied against them or in the past. In terms of things like verifying a realtor or a contractor, you can always contact my team, outreach at dfpi.ca.gov, and we could forward you on to many of our other sister agencies like the Department of Real Estate, the State Contractors Licensing Board, who has ways that you can also verify licenses. And with that, I do want to say thank you for all the great questions. Last minute kind of wrap up here. Our next webinar is to protect yourself from mail scams. We're going to have someone from the U.S. Post Office Inspection Service join us. It's going to be a great webinar, March 5th at noon. There's a link to join. And also subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't done so yet. We are going to be publishing this video on our YouTube channel, so look out for that. And with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Trevor, for the time and opportunity to come here and talk to us. And thank you all. Please have a fantastic day. Take care of yourselves and each other. Goodbye.